Hello, my name is Emilio Vallarino Godinez. I'm 16 years old and I'm from Mexico. Now, before I continue, I would like to get a point across, and that is that I like to think of myself as an abstract thinker. By that I mean I like to see things under a different light. So, in my abstract way of thinking, I see life as a corridor filled with locked doors, and language is one of the keys that can be used to open these locked doors, which represent opportunities. That is the reason why I see that language can really open the world for you, as it gives you this almost endless amount of opportunities in life. Now, that to me is pretty obvious, but I think that it's really important to reinforce these kind of ideas from time to time. And the way I'm going to do it today is by telling two stories in which it will become pretty obvious that knowing another language can certainly be helpful in some situations. The first story happened when I was about 12 years old, and my family had just decided to go on vacation to Cancun, where we stayed at the Godinez hotel, which has the peculiarity of receiving many guests from many different parts of the world, such as Canada, Korea, China, so on and so forth. One day in particular, I was standing there doing nothing, just lost in my thoughts, which is something that tends to happen a lot to me, but to the point. So as I was standing there, this big Russian guy comes out of nowhere and starts speaking to me. And I know he was Russian because of his accent and because he had something written in his shirt, which was in Russian. So as he finished speaking, I was like, what did he just say? I understood nothing. And the worst part was that I had to give him an answer. So, with the help of hand gestures, I told him, I don't speak your language. And after a moment of silence, he started speaking again. After he finished speaking a second time, I told him, yet again, I don't speak Russian. And this time, he actually understood, as he took out a pamphlet from his pocket and pointed at the name of a restaurant inside of the hotel. So I told him to come with me, took him there. When we arrived, he said thank you, and entered. That man went through all of that problem just because he wanted to know the name of a restaurant. And seriously, I can't help but imagine the amount of trouble that man was going to go through the rest of his stay at the hotel. And that shouldn't happen, because in this globalized world of ours, knowing another language can help you solve these kinds of problems and even avoid them from time to time. The second story happened about 3 years after the first one, and yet again, my family and I decided to go on vacation. This time, however, we went to Germany. About one day after we arrived, we were walking through the streets of a small German town when we saw a library and decided to go in. Not long after taking that decision, I saw a book on German folklore, which is something that I really love. The only problem was that the book was in German. So I decided to go to the owner of the store to see if he had a version in English. But as he replied to me in German, I decided to go off and find a version by myself. And in the end, it took me like 1.5 hours to find it. In fact, the only reason I was able to find it was because my sister decided to stay there, as she actually wanted to look at some books by herself. Now, what really bothers me about this situation is that not only was I not able to communicate properly with the store owner, which wasn't his fault, by the way, but also that if there had not been a version in English of that book, I would have missed out on it, which would have been a shame because it's a really good book. Through these two stories, we can see that language not only gives you the opportunity of communicating with others and gaining an almost endless access to knowledge and information, but also it gives you a deeper comprehension of another culture, which in the end, nowadays, is something really important, as many problems happen because of that, a lack of comprehension. To end this, I would like to say a small quote from Vallarino, which, if you ask me, sums up pretty well what I've said so far. Words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. We have the option of using these words constructively with words of encouragement, or destructively with words of despair. Words have energy and power with the ability to help, to heal, to hinder, to hurt, to harm, to humiliate, or to humble. Thank you for your attention.